Burrow airs it out. Chase. Hello. Touchdown.
And I got a voice inside that needs to be fed. Causing chaos everywhere I
land. Are two of the best historically, just not thus far. Against these receivers.
Making the Junkins again, and there is Smith roaming free, breaks a tackle. Ohio State strikes quickly.
Good evening, everybody. This is Jordan with Ohio Sports Talk. It's been a little bit. It's been about a week. We'd like to thank Barry Shuck for coming on last Thursday and giving us an absolute kick-ass interview. We appreciate your time, sir. Appreciate your insight. Really got a grip of a lot of history that I did not know, both with Mike Brown, the Cincinnati Bengals, and over the Cleveland Browns. So, anytime we can learn something new, kick it up, definitely take our knowledge to the next notch. Always appreciated. Monday, I was down with an illness. We planned to go live. I just couldn't make it happen. So, I apologize to everybody. It's been a hell of a week. But a big week in sports, folks. Right here, Ohio, we seem to be the epicenter of a little bit of everything right now. We got some combat sports going. We have Bengals drama. We have Cincinnati Reds. Are they red hot? Are they back? Or the last game, especially an afternoon game, did they really show their true colors and just show, again, they're just a continued roller coaster? A lot to dive into this afternoon and this evening. For everybody watching, I always appreciate your support. It's been a little bit of transition, having a lot of fun with it. So, we're just going to dive right in here. We're going to start with the most fresh in our minds. The Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds went and swept the Arizona Diamondbacks and officially brought the Ohio Cup home. So we took 2 out of 3 with the Cleveland Guardians. I wanted to say Indians, still in there, folks. It's hard to believe they did a name change. But they did absolutely fantastic, barring that last afternoon game. And I really want to focus in that Andrew Abbott game. What a season this guy is having. Historic season. Pitched all 9 innings. Some close calls. Had a hell of a defense behind him. For once, the Cincinnati Reds defense came alive in the outfield and in the infield to absolutely support him. I think Andrew Abbott is going to be a guy that the Cincinnati Reds will rally behind, especially with Hunter Green being out for the foreseeable future. Absolutely, all 9 innings, shut out the Cleveland Guardians, came out with the win, just absolutely motivated the team. We saw some catches that I wish I had the highlights. Catches that catches the year for me. If there was ever a series that was going to define something or a game that was going to define the Cincinnati Reds, I hope they build off that. Andrew Abbott's absolutely been, awesome. And, a lot more to come there. But we fast forward, we're feeling good. We're 5 games ahead. We play an afternoon game and we absolutely get pummeled. We're giving up big runs in the beginning of the game, making some errors, giving up a grand slam to Santana. It makes me hard to buy in. As many of you see, my background is an X-Files poster. I want to believe. The Cincinnati Reds make me want to believe, but it's just hard. It's really hard to believe when you see great things. We win the games we're not supposed to win. We play the competition level to the max. Then we go against a team like the White Sox or something like that, and we just kind of fizzle out and we bomb. So we'll see. But I'm more than confident this team's moving forward, and they're going to do great things. We tip off against Detroit. We're sending Nick Martinez to the mound tomorrow. I believe a 6:45 first pitch Eastern Standard Time. The Reds are going to be at Detroit because the Havana Bananas are taking over Cincinnati I will be attending that game tomorrow, so I'll definitely give you guys some live updates from that. Taking the kids, it's going to be a fun time. But over at Great American Ballpark. But we'll see if the Reds can keep that trend. I mean, if we're winning 3 out of 4 games from now to the end, we're going to be somewhere. So, but a lot of things are going to determine that. CES coming back was a big shot in the arm. We traded Austin Wynns back for cash considerations. So we'll see where that money is spent. Kind of made it a joke. Corn dogs. Maybe we got some corn dogs for Douglas over at Buffalo Wild Wings. I doubt it, but, that war rages on itself. But, let's dive into some other news here. That's wrapped up. Cincinnati starts the weekend for a 3-game stand against Detroit in Detroit. Nick Martinez starts the series to the mound. We'll see if we can continue our winning ways here. It's always a little bit weird when you're by yourself transitioning. But, let's talk some drama, big drama today and probably the next couple of weeks. The Cincinnati Bengals definitely have some drama going on of their own. We know about the Trey Hendrickson ordeal. It's not getting any better. Trey Hendrickson is just not going to participate in camp altogether. But we got to really look at the whole situation here. The pass rush is not going to get any better, folks. Shamar Stewart, I'm even going to pronounce his name. He just absolutely infuriates me. Came out to the media 2 days ago and said, it's all about language. It's all about the contract. Cincinnati is more interested in winning arguments than there are games. Big talk. So we thought, hey, this is going to be support here. We're going to support this guy. It's got to be, the front office. We've had the T. Higgins situation. We've had Trey Hendrickson situation. I think about, the countless guys. You can think about the Michael Johnson situation under the Lewis era, the Geno Atkins situation, Carlos Dunlap, so on and so forth. And you're like, all right, maybe this guy has some fire to the smoke. Absolutely not, folks. This guy does not have fire to the smokes. It's been later reported and even leaked out the language of the contract. This is on Stewart's camp and Stewart himself. I'm convinced that this guy is pulling leverage on 3.5 sacks in college. Yeah, you're a first-round pick. You got some size and ability that could be potential. But, we've seen that potential not bud time and time again, especially when it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals draft picks defensively. If you think about Will Clark comes to mind from West Virginia when we drafted him to take the place of Michael Johnson before he departed over into Tampa Bay. And, we had to really take him out. And we brought Michael Johnson back. Clark never finished his career in Cincinnati. I think he finished his career probably over in the UFL somewhere. But, it just shows that, man, we just put a lot of faith into guys that aren't going to go anywhere. But, this guy was a project pick to begin with. He's already behind the curb. He's not participating. Contract language. I tried to really read it out. I tried to understand it. It doesn't look that different than the league. The front office has some issues here and there from how the rest of the NFL does business. But I feel like anybody that's in the sports agency world should have just steamrolled this, got this through, get your guy in, get the money going, get the practice going, and go earn your stripes. Because right now, this guy, he's kind of a bum to me. We had other guys on the board that we could have took or even, traded back in later. You look at the Jermaine Pratt cut, saved $5.2 million on the roster, $2.6 million in dead cap money. We could have traded him for a 4th rounder, could have went in and got a Jack Sawyer, somebody that was a lot more productive, not only just in his playoff run, but in his career in general, over Stewart. It's just, I don't know why he went so late. I think he's going to be a gem He could have been a great replacement on our defensive line. But this is where we're at, folks. So more drama. And it's not going to get any better. We don't need any distractions. We're coming off 2 years of no playoff appearances. Really weak shit right now from the front office in general. Other draft picks, Miles Murphy is going on year 3, still unproven. They don't even know if the guy can get to the quarterback. We're putting our trust in Joseph Osai, who's coming off a 5-sack season. I mean, that's what are we doing here? I mean, it's just still have no answers at the defensive tackle position when it comes to the 3-tech. We got that run stopper from Green Bay, but really it's on BJ Hill's shoulders to carry that. And 32 plus years old coming in, the man still has gas in the tank, but to ask him to do it night in and night out with no help, I mean, we might be seeing a lot of the same results as last year, folks. This was a bottom tier defensive line last year. Looks like it's going to be a bottom tier defensive line this year. We'll see how it all pans out. I don't have a lot of faith in this team right now. You look at the rest of the division. TJ Watt is holding out from the Steelers. So if there's any moral victory for the AFC North, it's TJ Watt holding out. So we'll continue to see how things go there and kind of keep a little pulse on that. But let's talk about a little bit something more positive for the Cincinnati Bengals. The offensive line. We've done a little bit of reshuffling here. We got guys healthy. Amarius Mims is coming into year 2. Barring any injury. He had that late start last year. And with that chest plate injury in training, we'll kind of see where that goes. Brown didn't cut it. We brought him over from New England, and he wound up having an injury. Wound up going to the Texans in free agency of all places. Which, man, we got some Texans news to break later. But this kind of is the way it is in Ohio pro sports. But the offensive line, the guard positions are brand new. The days of Cordell Volson are gone. We've got 2 guys. We got Fairchild. I got to get some names right. But, again, when you're by yourself and you can't feed off of somebody else, look somebody else a little wink, wink. It helps. It helps. Everybody kind of helps each other and feeds off. Doug was a great co-host. But definitely we have Dylan Fairchild over at left guard. Lucas Patrick coming in at right guard. 2 new faces. 1 rookie. I'm hearing a lot of good things from the camp. I'm hearing a lot of good things from the report. So, we'll see where things go there. The offensive line, they're saying all the right things. Brown is going to the media saying we're going to play, well above the level that they played last year. They were ranked 28th and 26th the last 2 respective seasons as a unit. So it's got to get better, folks. Joe Burrow needs more protection. We got the contracts figured out. We get the mega wide receivers paid. We got, a battle for the 3rd wide receiver looming. We're hearing great things from Jermaine Burton. Does he have his shit together? Is he going to perform? We'll see. Andre Yoshavash, put on 15 pounds of muscle. Man looks like he's ready to just absolutely eat on the field. We saw some highlights. Some guys make some catches in double coverage. And that was Yoshavash. Looked really good. Some of the ball placement from Joe Burrow. Run a lot of those routes, across the middle. Really kind of manning that Tyler Boyd area that's been, sorely missed since he departed for Tennessee. But, I think this team offensively, we're going to do okay. Mike Gesicki, we know what he can do. We figured him out last year. We know where he fits. He can play a little bit of inside, but definitely, we can play chess with him outside. We can mess with the linebackers. We can give Joe Burrow some space. He caught the ball in the screen game. Chase Brown was an absolute weapon. 1,300 all yards, rushing and receiving combined, all-purpose yards. Guy even missed 2 games last year due to injury. So that 13 yards could have easily been 15 plus. He was 900 plus yards, outside looking in at the 1K marker on the ground. And, we'll see where that goes. He's definitely going to be the number 1. Moss has got to be, you got to think. I mean, Moss took a pay cut, has that neck injury. he's got to be a number 2 guy. I wouldn't waste the year starting him. That's one of why Brown kind of got a slow start before Moss's injury. I would use Moss sparingly in the screen game, use him for some pass protection. He rates in a little bit higher there. Bringing P-Ron back, I'm not real excited about it. I mean, the guy can pass protect. He has a little bit of gas left in the tank. He made a difference for Kansas City when they called upon him when Kansas City was running their backfield. So, a lot of things offensively for the Cincinnati Bengals to be excited about. But, they got to get out of their own way here. If the offense can start, week 1 against Cleveland, pound Cleveland, get in Cleveland's face, make Cleveland play from behind, whether that's Joe Flacco, whether that's Kenny Pickett, whether that's Shedeur Sanders. Well, we got to get a guy out there that absolutely can do his thing. And, defensively, I don't know. But, if Joe Burrow and the boys can go out there and stack points, make Cleveland one-dimensional, make them go away from the run game early, I think that's easily week 1. But we'll preview that when it comes much, much closer. But right now, that's kind of all I got on this in general. So we'll kind of continue to press on here. A lot, like I said, I got a lot of things on my mind, a lot of things to, discuss. While we're in the NFL, Nick Chubb signs a virtually close to a $2.6 million deal with the Houston Texans. It's over, folks. I try to get Doug to put together a little package. He's been super busy. The kid's got him running around like a madman this summer. So, we'll see him when the NFL gets closer, no doubt. But Nick Chubb is gone. He has joined Joe Mixon to the Houston Texans. And, I think the Texans got a steal here. You look at Joe Mixon, highly paid, a guy that can do well, a guy that can, really elevate their pass game, give them an outlet, also pound the rock a little bit. But Nick Chubb, when healthy, will be that guy. Will be 100% that guy that the Texans need to put a stamp on the AFC South. We all know the Colts got better on defense, both via free agency and the draft. They got guys like JT Tuamoa playing, the 3 tech over in Indianapolis. So it's no mistake that the Houston Texans, they want to stay above it. They want to stay competitive. Adding a guy like Nick Chubb to a backfield that was already pretty doing okay, over 1,000 yards for Joe Mixon last year, over 1,200 yards all purpose. The guy still got it, but now Nick Chubb can come in, get those hard yardage through those big defensive linemen, really probably go out and score you a couple touchdowns in the red zone. Definitely can still be used in the screen game. He's not a guy that's going to be shouldered everything, so I think he's coming into a great situation. The Texans, they got a little bit of a tweaking on their offensive line, so I'm worried for them early for that offensive line to mesh. So, but, we wish him well. Even as a Bengals fan, Nick Chubb is a guy that lifetime average for the Cleveland Browns averaged 5.1 yards a carry, 6,843 yards on the ground, 51 touchdowns. I mean, that the guy's accolades, he was never on great teams. He was on a playoff team here and there, but just the guy was absolutely a beast and a monster when you needed him to be. Being a Bengals fan, he's slashed and gassed us many times. So just like Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, we wish you well here at Ohio Sports Talk. And, I'm sure we'll sneak some bets in, maybe an anytime touchdown, make it fun. And we'll see where you go, brother. I wish you nothing but the best. And, it's a business. The man still has gas in the tank. I think he's going to take this contract, this 2.1, nothing contract, and go and get $5 or $6 million next year when the rest of the league learns that he's still that guy. So, I'm a big Nick Chubb fan. I think he's going to do well. And Godspeed, sir. But, let's transition here. We had a very, very busy weekend, coming into Monday. We had a little UFC action. Let's definitely touch it. Kayla Harrison, UFC bantamweight champion in the women's division, 2010 gold medalist for jiu-jitsu, comes out and just does it again. retains, keeps the belt, does well. In her 30s, some talk of 1 or 2 fights left is what her family and, kind of the local media is saying over in Middletown. But, this girl, you can't say enough of it. And, a couple of years ago when they had those fights that would come on New Year's and she won that $1 million, I said she was going to be something special, and she hasn't disappointed. 19-1 MMA career, 19 wins. She's probably going to kick my ass. 1 loss. The loss was by a decision, so she's never been knocked out. She's never submitted. She's never tapped. Enough can't be said about this. The word is Amanda Nunes is going to come out of retirement for this next fight. And, I'm all in here. I am 100% all in. I think Kayla can really take it to her, can, really compete, do good things. And, we'll see where it really takes us here. I'm super excited. I wish Doug was here. Maybe he'll chime in the comments. We'll check here. Not yet. But, Doug's a big UFC guy. Got me back into it, probably last year. We've had a couple pay-per-views together where we've really dived back into the world of UFC. But, what a great champion right here from Middletown, Ohio, right between Doug. I live in Cincinnati right now. Doug lives in Dayton. You're looking at 25, 30 minutes away. So, my hat's off to her. Can't wait. We will be running that fight one way or the other. Can't wait for the announcement, for the official date, and we'll see where it takes us here. So, but definitely got a few things still rolling here. We'll transition. I know the new graphics department. I'm not there yet, but we're getting there. Most certainly. Well, we do have the Hannah Bananas are at Great American Ballpark. That's kind of my news and notes here. But, this is going to be entertaining. I personally never sat down and watched the whole thing. My kids are all about it. I know they're on Disney Plus. They have their little thing on Hulu. We're going to go Friday and see what they're all about. So maybe I'll have a good time, relax, watch something that doesn't, hold dearly to me one way or another. They've had Andy Dalton, I think, was on. They've had, the actor from The Sandlot was on a couple games ago. I saw that. The great Hambino. If you're a Sandlot fan and you get that reference, Godspeed to you. It's time for our doctor's appointments, right? But we're getting up there in age. My kids love The Sandlot too, so it gives me an excuse to be a kid for 90 minutes. But they're going to be in town. I'll be covering that. We'll kind of see where it goes. I know we're about another week or two out before MLS for FC Cincinnati kicks back off. So we have no real news there. The Cleveland Cavaliers, I love Garland to death. He had surgery on his toe. It's being reported that Darius Garland's going to miss the first 10 games of the next regular season. And, man, he was discussed as a trade candidate before this surgery. But it puts me on the fence. How bad was the toe in the series finale and in the game before that? I don't know. We had previous season before that, he had his issues. He had his jaw wired shut. He lost all that weight. It took a lot from his game. We kind of use that as an excuse for the Boston series. Now we're looking at the Pacers series. And it's always kind of something. He's been really injury prone. Definitely a trade candidate. Part of our core four that people like to hear it or say it, which, I don't think we have a core anything if your name isn't Donovan Mitchell or Evan Mobley. I think everybody else is 110% touchable and tradable. You hear Giannis is officially off the trade market, per Bucks. Of course the Bucks are going to say that. Why would why would they say anything different? But, you look at the Utah Jazz, who we have a great relationship with. They're supposedly having a fire sale. They're calling everybody and their mom right now. They're, Colin Sexton's supposed to be back on the market. Jordan Clarkson is back on the market. If I'm the GM over in Cleveland, I'm making some calls. Maybe we can get a reunion out. We can give up a bench guy. Jared Allen is definitely a trade candidate. If we get another ball handler in, if we get somebody with some stability, I wouldn't hate it. We did a lot of going back and forth over on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, on what we believe should happen there. And, I'm seeing 2 or 3 pieces leaving. I'm locking in Jared Allen is definitely going to depart. I think we're going to hold Evan Mobley because of the ceiling. Even though, a guy like Giannis, you trade Mobley in a minute, but I don't foresee that happening. If we get a reunion, if we get guys out, Isaac Okoro gone, it almost has to be, right? I mean, without a question, the guy in the playoffs is just non-existent. Even when we bring him out for defensive purposes, it just doesn't work out for us in the biggest moments. We've seen that 2 years in a row. I've seen enough of it. Regular season is one thing, but the playoffs is what it's all about, folks. So, I definitely want to see where it goes. We got Ricky Logan Jr. The Bengals can't seem to get out of their own way. Like I said, I don't think the Bengals are going to be the ones to blame in this situation, outside of the Trey Hendricks. So, but yeah, that's my kind of news notes. That's my thoughts. Cleveland Cavaliers. Hats off to the Indiana Pacers. They're up 2-1. Obi Toppin had some nice highlights and some big clutch plays last night. 2 games ago, he had 19 points. The guy is absolutely an animal, playing his lights out. Obi Toppin, born, I won't say born here, but, basketball raised right here in the University of Dayton. What a team that could have been if COVID hadn't gotten in the way. I believe they were even 3 or 2nd seed going in. But try not to think about what could have been. That's the life and pain of an Ohio sports fan. But, you think about, Palmer's knee, what could have been. Andy Dalton breaking his thumb during their 12-plus win season. What could have been. It'll drive you nuts, folks. It'll absolutely drive you nuts. And that seems to be a lot of echoes. Urban Meyer's first, full season there. Had we not been on a bowl ban, they went undefeated. What could have been? Could Urban hold the trophy twice? So it's just, that's the life in sports. That's why it's great. It's always a conversational piece. And I love, we're up to 835 live viewers. Can't appreciate you enough. But, I will be back on Monday, 9 p.m. We were a little bit early tonight. I had a couple obligations to take care of. But being solo right now, I can do those things. I have some big guests lined up. Can't wait. We got some NFL guys coming on. I got a Buckeye coming back on soon. We got a fun summer for you guys lined up here at Ohio Sports Talk. We're going to strive to continue to put out good content, continue to be better. I appreciate our fans, appreciate everybody we interact with. It's been a hell of a couple of weeks of transition. We've seen it before, but I will do better. I will be more consistent. I won't let my health get in the way. And, things will be great. I'm back in the Alter program. It's going to be a fun season for football coming up and, so on and so forth. Like I said, we'll get Doug here on appearance here and there, when his schedule dies down. I got some guests lined up, some co-hosts lined up, temporarily to kind of fill in the gap, make it a more conversational piece. Definitely get in the comments. Thank you to Ricky Logan who got in. Doug reposted it over on his medias. We appreciate it there. And this has been the coach, still the coach, Jordan Maxon. This has been Ohio Sports Talk. Have a good evening, and God bless.